Perfect. Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to Mandatory Fun Time, where I interview amazing people who are doing wonderful things in our community. And today I am joined with Juan from Netflix and Latinx Gaming, and he's a man. He's a champion of the people. He's incredible in every single way, and I'm so excited to get to actually like interview him because every time I get to talk, with you, you're always so insightful and so like wise, and it feels like oh shit, I grew a little bit from this conversation. So it's really cool to have you. So thank you again for being here.
Oh man, thanks for hosting and just wanting to have a conversation. So I'm happy to have some mandatory fun.
Right, exactly. Yeah, okay, cool. So admittedly, like I don't know much about you other than you're a veteran and you work in Netflix and you're a co-founder of Latinx and Gaming, which is already like super impressive and everything. But would you be able to take a moment to explain like who you are and what your sort of brand is and what you do and everything?
Yeah, you might not have heard of me, and that's intentional, right? I like to work behind the scenes, and I grew up like kind of like in the in like a weird like middle space, right?
Yeah.
So to really understand like where I'm coming from, you got to go like really dig deep in my history. And so just let's just make things like really like diverse.
Hmm?
So I'm the last of my mother's five kids, and I'm the first of my dad's three, and I'm the only one that they shared together, right?
Oh
So like
wow, yeah.
I'm kind of like right in the middle, the only one that has like half siblings on both sides.
Yeah.
So when I hang out with my mom's family, I'm the baby, and then when I hang out with my dad's family,
You're the
um,
eldest, yeah,
yeah,
son.
it's like
Yeah.
so I've had this like really interesting like conflicting place like of who am I supposed to be, and to complicate things, my dad's name is also Juan Vaca.
Yeah.
So like I've never really had this kind of like own identity. And so like I've kind of just like just stayed quiet, done my thing. um and when I was going through school and trying to go to college as you turn 18 and you're supposed to do and turn into a lawyer or a doctor,
Yeah.
as the Latino destiny is foretold. um I was like, I can't do this, right? Like it's not for me. And so
Yeah.
I ended up joining the Marines, and I still stayed quiet, but I did the work. And then I realized that the work kind of speaks for itself and is louder than anything that you could, really say or do.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting meritoriously promoted. I ended up getting promoted in front of my peers. And then that just made me hungry. And I wanted to like keep, trying to be the best at what I do and how can I keep going forward. Um, and then that's when I like found out that there was a sniper platoon, and I was like, oh man, like these are the top 10% of the battalion, and
Yeah.
like these are the guys who are doing the things, right? Like it looks like we're all out. It sucks being in the Marine Corps, but at
Yeah.
least they look like they're having a good time because like nobody
Yeah.
tells them what to do. Like they create their own destiny, and in a way I started to be like, that's what I want to do,
Yeah.
right? Like I wanna figure out um how to be there, you know, let people know that like I'm capable of doing things,
Yeah.
and really like push myself like past my limits. So I ended up networking, talking to the other snipers and being like, yo, what should I do? Like, if I'm really going to try this. And they were like, just run with a pack, just like put some heavy like, things in your backpack and like go for a run, in the
Yeah.
middle of the day. And
I
what they
can't
were
even
trying to
imagine. Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
And what they're trying to tell you is like this is tough and you got to practice and you got to push through and you got to put your time in.
Yeah.
Um, and then even as a sergeant, right, like at the pinnacle of like what I was already doing in my platoon, I had to start over if I wanted to be a sniper, right? Like you get nothing, right? Like you still get paid the same,
Yeah.
but I was still like treated the same as someone who had never been to sniper school. And it's true, right? Like if you don't
Yeah.
know what you don't know, they can't just like give you the gun and expect you to like go do everything. So
Yeah.
commence intense training. And you just go through all these like classes and tests and rigorous things that, kind of push you, but you become like really alert to things, and you start to
Yeah.
see, like, you literally start to train on how to observe, and build clues and information from that, and all while being silent and just watching.
Yeah.
So this kind of felt like thematic because this is how I felt in my own family, right? I just like leaned back and I just like watched like what was happening in,
Yeah.
my mom's side of the family, my dad's side of the family, the conversations that they would have, and how that painted the picture of like what the family ecosystem was, right?
Yeah.
On both sides. So, as a kid, you're just trying to like put together the world. In my 20s, I tried to like go, take destiny of my life and figure out, what it is that I wanted to do. Um, about 5 years, into the Marine Corps, I was like, this is not for me. Like, I'm ready to get out. And luckily I had taken everything that I had built off of like my experiences and kind of just like really began to advocate for myself, um and push into like, all right, well, when I get out of the Marine Corps, like what do I want to do? And what's the one thing that I love? It's video games.
Yeah.
Like I had loved video games, and I was like, well, my grandma said you got to get an education.
Yeah.
I want to work in video games. Like, like I have to, create a plan, like the Marine Corps taught me, to bridge a gap and make connections to, even if you aren't like right there, you'll be kind of like adjacent or close enough.
Yeah.
And so basically, I just, went to school, got my degree, tried to network and get internships. And, that's really been kind of how I've slowly, um, got into the industry, right? Like the
Yeah.
people that I networked, became my roommates, which became the people that referred me to, internships, which became people that referred me to jobs, and other jobs. And like,
Yeah.
it's really a small industry. So, why wouldn't you want to like help each other out
Yeah.
and, make connections, solve problems together, and, just, you know, leave the place better than you found it, or try to like solve some problems for people.
Yeah, that's so amazing. That's like that's heavy and so insightful because or provides me a lot of insight because you always come off as someone who's lived multiple lives, like you yeah, and that explains everything, from that's beginning stage of being like, I really don't know what I want to do, and I don't know if I want to spend all this money going to college and all that kind of stuff, so I'm going to go to the Marines. And then you came out of there like, and knowing what you're capable of doing, and like now like super super sharp and super super keen, and then going into the industry that you wanted to. And then I can imagine that emotional awareness, and even like just awareness in general, must have helped you find, because for a lot of other people, they when they encounter an issue or a problem, they kind of stop and it's like, oh, this is a roadblock, can't do it. But I can imagine from all that training, it's like, no, there's a logical rational conclusion as to how we can get closer to the goal. And so it's wild. Yeah.
And I think the hardest thing too is giving up on yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's a real easiest thing for you to do. Say, this is for someone else. This, other people can do this. It's not for me.
Yeah.
And like I remember specifically, like, during like sniper tryouts, they, have this like, hidden system where it's like, we're going to keep people running and we're not going to tell them how far it is,
Hmm.
but we're just going to keep going until there's only 10 people left, and we'll just get people to quit. So as people quit, like they'll, like, we don't want quitters, right? Like that's
Yeah.
that's basically the mentality, right? You can train someone to shoot a gun, you can train someone to do other things, but you can't train people to not quit.
The emotional fortitude. Yeah.
So that's where like the line is of like whether you really want something, and it's okay
Hmm.
to not want things.
Yeah.
That's totally fine to like walk away and say, you know what, this is not for me. Playing the guitar, not for me, right?
Yeah.
I understand. I love picking it up. I love the way it sounds. I know basic chords, but it's just not in my fingers, and it hurts. So I know
Yeah.
that like, it's just not in my destiny unless I really wanted to push for it. But juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Exactly. Yeah. That's so
So
good.
I think that like as we think about I'm sorry, like what were we talking about?
No, you're good. We're talking about you. So you're
No, no,
already
no.
like you.
But
Yeah,
it was
it's
the
all good.
I was trying to bring it back, and it was to the
Where you're at now, like what your brand is, and like all that kind of stuff. So as a storyteller, you know, working uh for Netflix, Latinx gaming, and all that sort of stuff and everything. Yeah.
quitting. That's what it was. It was
Yes.
about quitting. Yeah. So see, I'm not even quitting the story. Like you gotta keep going.
You're
Right?
good.
Keep
You're
going
good.
with the story.
Yeah.
That's one of the beautiful things of like living an improv life is that it's like yes and we just
Yeah.
have to like stumble through and push through. Even with like music when you're just jamming, you just have to find a way to get back into your groove. Like the song
Yeah.
keeps going. Um. So I failed sniper school. You know,
Yeah.
like it sucked. It was really difficult. And on my day out, like the chief instructor and like the instructors that are like firing me essentially
Yeah.
were like hey Sergeant Vaca, like you were going to be the top graduate, and we're sorry to see you go. We've never seen anyone with like scores like you, or with this type of like drive.
Yeah.
Like please come back and finish. So sniper school is like 10 weeks long. If you fail in the second half, you're allowed to come back at week 5, like on the next class.
Yeah.
So I went out, I trained, I fixed the things that were my flaws, came back, and push through, right? Like every kind of obstacle that you think would happen happened. They gave me a bad partner. My partner had issues during the final exercise, during the final test.
Yeah.
And it just became like no, like I'm finishing, like
Hell or
like
high
you're
water, we're doing
like
this. Yeah.
you be quiet, follow me, I know where it is,
Yeah.
like just trust me. um so it became that kind of like drive. And fast forward to graduating from sniper school, as I'm about to finish, my chief instructor, was like, congratulations, but this isn't like the end. Like this is actually just the beginning.
Yeah.
That always like opened up my mind, because you kind of like keep your sight on just like your that one objective, and you
Yeah.
sometimes don't think about the bigger picture, right? Like one of the things that they teach you as like a sniper is not just your target, but what's behind your target,
Yeah.
right? Like because that has ramifications as well.
Mhm.
um so go to school. I'm doing really great in community college, obviously, because it's like you know not it's like the show,
Yeah.
right? Like and when it's video game community college, it was like great.
Yeah.
It was like hey, here's a week, think of a game for a video game, or think of an idea for a video game, come back and write a paragraph.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, this
So
is
you got it.
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And people still couldn't do it for some reason, right? Like people can't like do their homework,
Yeah.
even if it's fun. So I see USC, and I was like, that's where I want to go to school. So I put in my application, and I get rejected. And I was just like, oh man, this really hurts, right?
Yeah.
Like this was a school that I really wanted to go to, that I loved. And I end up really thinking about myself, like feeling sorry for myself.
Yeah.
And all it took was like one friend to be like, why don't you apply again? And it was
Yeah.
like, right, why
You're like,
don't I
oh,
apply
right.
again? Right, like
Yeah.
it's like maybe I'm not ready now, right?
Yeah.
Like so I leaned back on like my experiences, and I was like, well where are my flaws? Like what am I missing? And I mustered up the courage to make a phone call and call the admissions department and be like, why? And they were like, you're missing an English credit and a math credit, because I did not want to deal with those. So like I was pushing those off. So it was
Yeah.
my own procrastination that came back and haunted me. Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I know what I'm doing this summer. And so I signed up for those 2 classes, reapplied, and I ended up getting into the school after all.
Yeah.
Fast forward towards the end of school, and I apply for an assistant producer job at Telltale Games, and I get rejected. And I
Yeah.
was just like, oh man, like this really sucks. but you know what? Like, maybe it's not for me.
Yeah.
You know, end up watching the video game awards. USC ends up having like a job expo, like the next day, and I end up running into Dan Connors, who's the CEO of Telltale,
Yeah.
and I had like remembered like seeing him on the VGAs, and I just wanted to. Like, I had played like The Walking Dead, and I was like, oh my god, I love this game. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Telltale's so
really
good.
great.
Yeah.
Like,
What's so good? Yeah.
changed the way I think about storytelling in games forever. And these are the types of games that I want to make, right?
Mhm.
So I was candid, I was honest. He was like, all right, cool, thanks, man. You know, and in that moment, like I felt like time just like stopped, you know, and I was just like, oh shit, it's my own little like telltale choice, you know. I
Yeah.
was
The
like, I
timer's
could like
running out.
I
Yeah.
could just like walk away, you know, or I could just be like, and you know, like I happened to apply for this job and I didn't get it, you know. So I mustered up the courage again, said, hey, like I really wanted this thing. Can you let me know why I didn't get it? And we can have a conversation about like, what I could do to bridge those gaps,
Yeah.
right? Like, how can we grow? How can we get feedback and grow? And he was like, well, let me see your resume. So I had it on me and I just like showed it to him. And he was like, we'll give you a call. And like they gave me a call like in a few weeks and I got an interview and I got the job, So
Dang. Yeah.
like, I think, three pivotal moments in my life, I got rejected from, I
Yeah.
failed of my own merit. There was no one else to blame. Like there's no fingers to be pointing.
Mhm.
Um, but you have to just kind of like learn, find
Yeah.
information, bridge those gaps and keep going, right? Like the world's going to keep going,
Yeah.
and you're either carrying your own momentum or you're kind of just, you know, staying stuck.
Yeah, I love that. Is that um listening to your origin story and everything you've gone through and everything like that really brings to light that almost every single past interview that I've had, they've all said, I've been rejected from this thing. I really wanted it, didn't get it, and then it was either like later on I found out that it was not for me, or like, tried again, got it, so it's incredible to hear the stories from everyone about how like tenacity, determination, like knowing that you want something and keep going for it does pay off. And there's so many countless people out there that like take an L once and be like, all right, I'm out, and then just like leave, not knowing how far they can go had they just tried like, again. So it's beautiful to hear about like how far you've come despite so many like setbacks or like yeah, failures and all that kind of stuff. So it's incredible. Good job, dude. You're
Thanks,
amazing.
man. It's also taken a lot of therapy to get me here.
Yes,
So it's not just like, an overnight success of like, you know what,
exactly.
I'm gonna do this, which is, I love my family as much as like
Hmm.
everyone else does. But you can't just like snap out of it like when
Yeah,
your family tells you. So, I've gone through some like tough pains of like weekly therapy and
yeah,
homework and really challenging yourself. But in the end, I think, once you're able to like be in control of your inner monologue and think
hmm,
about the way that you think and think about the way that you think about thinking, like
yeah,
you're really able to be in this like nice, presence, that allows you to just kind of have like a perspective of, positivity, and understanding that like all things change and you're going to, just try to do the best that you can. And I
yeah,
think, if you do the best that you can every day, as you look behind you, you're going to have like a really nice like track record
yeah,
of things that you've done for yourself and other people.
yeah, absolutely. And speaking of like therapy and everything like that, um, the next it leads me to my next question was as like creators, we can often find ourselves working beyond our limits and ultimately burning out. What are your own sort of self care techniques to ensure you don't like you avoid that sort of burnout as much as possible?
I think the first thing is knowing your, signs of burnout.
Yeah,
I think until you get burnt, you kind of don't know like your limit, right?
yeah,
It's almost kind of like I don't condone drinking alcohol, but like
yeah,
like you can have a sip, You can have
Mhm.
a buzz, and you can get drunk, and you can get blackout drunk. And
Yeah.
you can get hungover, or you can throw up, or alcohol poisoning, right?
Yeah.
So there's like a spectrum of like, you know, um, what are you doing? Um, yeah, it's therapy for me has been like something that I think, really, really saved my life. You
Yeah.
know, it really helped me, find myself, have the confidence of believing in myself. And it's still hard, like,
Yeah.
days to days, we're in a pandemic, like there's a bunch of stuff happening in the world. And, I think, we have to rely on ourselves and each other, to kind of like, be that support group, be that community, for each other. Um,
Yeah.
so for me, I feel like, tying it all back, right? Like, I felt like I've been in the shadows for so long, right?
Hmm.
Even literally working alone, being a sniper,
Hmm.
pushing myself for what if I can't do anything, if I'm not helping others, you
Yeah.
know, like what is this all building to, right? Like what are you creating, and what legacy are you leaving behind? What story are you telling? Who gets to tell stories, right? I think
Yeah.
this is all important, in what we all do, whether we say it and create the story, or whether our actions speak for us,
Yeah.
and, and pass it.
Yeah. It's so true because I feel like being brown in America and being raised specifically in a Latinx household and everything, mental health was kind of, and specifically therapy was kind of like looked down upon. I don't know about your family, but for mine, it absolutely was like only crazy people go to therapy and all that kind of stuff. And it was so sad because a lot of people in my family are veterans. They've gone to Vietnam, they've gone to Iraq and everything, and served and done tours and like suffer from PTSD and everything like that. So if so, my mindset was always like, well, if they're not getting therapy, then I'm going to look like a super wimp for even thinking of that I need therapy. Thankfully, as the years have gone on, that wisdom sort of grew, and I was able to go to therapy myself, and it's life changing. It legitimately, being able to talk to a trained professional about the issues that we have in our daily lives, because even taking the military out of the equation, just being brown in America, being a POC, comes with its whole like baggage from whether it be employment or romance or any of these sort of aspects, and it definitely does have that burden, that weight that you carry with you. And it's hard, it's so hard, and you kind of always wonder, like does that factor into some of my failures in some capacity? And like it just is a snowball effect, and yeah, so I like uh give you a lot of praise for seeking therapy and everything like that, specifically. And then going back to the military thing, I am starting to work more and more with Wounded Warrior Project, and I'm seeing these very strong veterans who have gone through so much, physically, and saved lives and done so many heroic acts. And seeking therapy is something that helps them through their trauma and their experiences, really, so I give you a lot of praise for all of your hard work, that mentally, that physically, and everything, because you're again a champion of the people, like nowadays, and the only way to get here is to look inward and work on yourself. So that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think also, like, you know if I rewind all the way back, right, like, I'm still a brown kid, in the basement, playing Resident Evil on a PlayStation on the floor,
Yeah.
like eating, like, digging a bag of Doritos or something, right? Like whatever the trope is, right? Because that's what it
Yeah.
was, right? I went up to like the bodega, and I got the 99 cent with my Arizona iced tea, because $2 is all I had, and that, like,
Yeah.
we knew exactly our combos.
Yeah.
Um, and so, like, I carry that, right? And like, there was no trajectory that I would say, hey, now you're working on, innovation at a tech company. Now
Yeah.
you're doing, you're going to work on these like licenses, all the stuff that like I grew up loving,
Yeah.
really manifested itself like in the story. And I basically just leaned on my experience of everything that I loved, and
Yeah.
was just like, you know, if it doesn't feel like work, like it really won't, because I'm naturally curious
Yeah.
about this, right? Like I love this, right? I love film, I love cinema, I love stories. I love sharing that, like the emotion that you get
Yeah.
when you get excited over a trailer with someone that you want to share, right? Like, hey, let's go watch this thing together. Or like we can't watch a thing until like we watch it together, right? Like there's
Yeah.
so much that we like put in into the communal aspect of art, through film, which leans into very much like playing together, right?
Yeah.
Like watching together is like playing together. So a lot of you know what drives me and like what I do is sharing that experience, right?
Yeah.
My family grew up playing poker. We had this like poker phase where we would just, go over to like my aunt's, like as we normally do on like a Saturday or a Sunday night.
Yeah.
But then around like 9 o'clock, like the chips came out and they'd like open up like a deck of cards and they'd be
Yeah.
like, hey, tia, ponga un cafecito. And it's just like,
Yeah.
wait, like coffee at like 10 p.m.? Oh man, it's going to be a long night.
Right.
And they bring out like their Ziploc bag of like, quarters,
Yeah.
they just start playing poker, but it's not just like the game of poker, but it's, the act of play and the conversations that are having around the table, and I
Yeah.
think that was something that, even though like every once in a while you'd lose a few bucks, you'd win a few bucks, it'd be something that we talked about the next morning.
Yeah.
But,
That's
in
experience.
the moment, right? Like there's discourse, there's
Yeah.
community, all built around, these rounds, right? And it reminds me, kind of in a way in which my grandma, before she would go to sleep every night, she would find her own peace in like praying the rosary,
Yeah.
right? And so she would just kind of like, just lose herself in moment, in that thought, in that presence, right? In the now of being at peace with everything that you have. So, what drives me to, my work is really, sharing the stories,
Yeah.
sharing the love of play, um, being able so that like everyone not only has a seat at the table, but has like a controller and input,
Yeah.
and feels involved and invested in playing with each other, because playing is how we learn,
Yeah.
like, and it's not just how we role play, but we're learning in that moment as well.
Yeah. It's so true. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. And you've already like touched on this a bit, but I'm still gonna ask it anyways. That way, if you want to pinpoint a certain time, that's like totally cool. But I know, especially from your origin story, that you've accomplished so much in your career. But there also has have to been some L's, as you had mentioned, multiple, of them, whether it be college or like sniper school that first time and everything like that. Um, Now, the first woman that I interviewed was named Eliana Murillo, and she had put it beautifully that L's no longer stand for losses, they stand for lessons. So, what would you say is one of your biggest L's that you refer back to that taught you the most? And whether it be a situation where you became fully prepared and it still didn't go well, or if it was a situation where, like, you know what, I messed up in that point and, like, never again.
Oh, I mean, like I mean, it's it's very much so when I failed out of sniper school,
Yeah.
right? So I I need to write a comic about sniper school because it's
It's
you know,
fascinating. It's interesting to hear
you
about
know.
this. Yeah. I had no
So
idea that you went through this. So it's like, anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen. I think it's a Clear and Present Danger, but where they're like looking for the dude in the bushes, and they're like, "Where is he?" And he's like takes a shot, and it's like you hear the ding, and it's like, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
All right, stand up. Where was he? So that guy was actually in the movie Ding Chavez,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, whoa, Chavez. Like, that sounds like somebody that looks like me.
Yeah.
And I ended up playing Rainbow Six, and you got to play as Ding. And so, like, all of a sudden, it was like I'm playing, I'm learning. I could do this. I could do this in real life. So I've built
Yeah.
this like embodiment of like I can do this, and I pushed myself to be actually like in school, like learning what I'm supposed to do. And it all goes back to that scene of hiding until it's the right moment to come out,
Yeah.
right? Or take a shot based on the information that you have. So everybody fails for the most part, like early in what's called land navigation, which is trying to get around and find your way, right? If you
Yeah.
can't find your way to your target, like you don't deserve
Can't
to
even
be
take
out
the
there
shot. Yeah.
alone, right?
Yeah.
Like because you'll never get there. Then the second part is where most people fail is in the stalking phase, which is basically like staying concealed, taking a shot, and then like, even when they're looking for you, like staying down.
Yeah.
And it's all built on a series of points where it's like, if you get caught, like, so the whole point is you're supposed to get within 200 meters, take a shot, right? Then someone will get over like within like 5 feet of you, and then the other people are trying to find you through the binoculars.
Yeah.
Then they will hold up like a playing card, and you have to like read like what card it is to make sure that like you actually see them. Um, then while they're looking for, then the second time around, they'll if they still don't find you, you have to take a second shot. And then what they're trying to look for is if if your shot moves any of the like trees around. And then after that moment, you have to then break your stuff down and disappear. And to get a full 100 points, you have to disappear, right?
Yeah.
But along the way, it's graded. So it's like if you made it to this point, you get 70 points. If you made it to this point, you get so many points.
Yeah.
So it's hard, right? And so to graduate sniper school, you need 700 points, of which two have to be perfect hundreds.
Wow.
So people are like, on that trajectory, and it's like, by stock four, they're not going to have the points. So they don't even like, nope,
Don't even
that's
try.
it.
Yeah.
You make it, right? And so you just start like, as you get out the back of the truck, you start seeing the numbers dwindle, you know? Um, and they drop you off and you just go off alone. I remember, getting into a position where like I thought I was in the clear. It felt close enough, right? I didn't measure it. Like, I kind of just was like, eyeballed it. Like, this feels good.
Yeah.
This feels good. Set everything up, do everything magically as I'm supposed to do, take my shot. The instructor comes over, really great guy. Like, I'll never forget this. But he goes, "Hey, Vaca, I think you're a little far." And I was like, I felt my like heart like sink,
Yeah.
you know? And he goes, "Hey, laze me." And he like basically gets online with me and he gets like a laser shot out to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember hearing him like over the radio, 206, you know?
Yeah.
And in that moment, like I knew exactly what all that meant,
Yeah.
right? Like failed, no school, like I don't know what else is what that looks like, right? Do I get kicked out of the platoon?
Yeah.
Do I get another shot? Like how is it going to work? But I knew in that moment like where I had failed,
Yeah.
what my weakness was. Everything else had been hundreds, like almost literally everything else. Um, where it got to the point where I was just like, okay, like not everything can be perfect, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to, take these lessons to really refine yourself and learn something about yourself to come back stronger, better. Sometimes the timing isn't even right for you. You
Yeah.
know, um, I remember that like staying hungry is exactly like I think what's in our system. And as I was graduating college, my last semester, there was an opening at my internship, which was at Marvel Games.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I already had the internship. And I was like thinking in my head, I could probably get this coordinator job, finish my last semester, and like, do both part time and find a way to like, do this, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
qualified for it. I can do this. And I had great rapport with the staff and the management team. They loved me. Um, and I didn't get the job, and I
Yeah.
didn't get the job because they were looking out for me. And they were like, this is not your trajectory, right?
Yeah.
Like you finish your school, focus on that, do your thing. If this keeps going, like, maybe we'll have headcount in like another year or something.
Yeah.
Like, like taking that L for me felt like very, I had gotten so close and I had made, these great relationships. Um, and it just felt like, you start to think about like those inadequacies again, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it because I'm less of a person? Is it because I'm not good enough? Was I
Yeah.
missing a thing? And you just cycle into those things. But ultimately, they gave me that feedback, right? And
Yeah.
they told me like, we're going to give someone else the job, but it's because this is the right decision for you. And really being open to that like was
Yeah.
super impactful, to the way that I framed it and thought about it, and grew as a person.
Yeah. Dang, that's super cool. Oh my gosh. It's wild that I love this interview series because every time I ask this question, I always get different responses. Like hearing about the valleys of everyone, because everyone knows the peaks. Like we all see it, we all see the highs of everything. But those low moments where it's like I felt my most vulnerable at this time, and then hearing about that, and then seeing them at the where at so it's humanizing. It's because I consider you a champion of the people and everything like that. As I said before, but it's also like even more sort of heroic or whatever to hear that you're a human being just like the rest of us, that you have your L's, a huge roster, but that's why you have so many big W's now, is because you accumulated all of those lessons in the past. So it's crazy. Yeah.
Every L is also like a path not to take going forward,
Yeah.
right? It's just like Madden like
Don't
stiff
force
arm,
it. Exactly. Yeah.
not gonna go that way. um and I think any veteran or anybody else will tell you like, I'm just doing my job,
Yeah.
like I don't know any different because I'm still that kid in the basement playing video games, right?
Yeah.
Like that, this is the only story I've known,
Mhm.
right? So I'm just trying to do what I can, and it's that experience I think that like I want to foster and give back and help other people avoid those mistakes, right?
Yeah.
um I remember like at Telltale just churning games out all the time, that like you used to put in like all this pressure on a milestone,
Mhm.
and you're just like, oh my God, it's alpha build, but when you
Yeah.
have like an alpha build like every 3 months, you're just like,
It's
okay, let's look at
normalized.
the
Yeah.
notes, like.
Yeah.
So I started to really think of like milestones, instead of it being like a final test,
Mhm.
really being more like a thermometer, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're going to get a temperature and that's going to tell you where you're at. And I think
Mhm.
that's more honest than thinking that you have to get everything done, the
Yeah.
night before and cram for a test,
Mhm.
right? Like I think all of us that cram for a test were built for like working in, video games or video game adjacent like
Yeah.
careers, because that's just what we do. And sometimes you can't like force these creative solutions. So it's like you have to learn to really read between the lines, find out what the best solution is, and do it in the amount of time that you have.
Yeah.
So I started to think of milestones that way, and that just made things a lot easier on my own stress, on like, hey, I guess we just don't have it, right? Like, I don't know what
Yeah.
you want me to do in 2 days. You want me to like, bend over backwards and do something that I can't do anyways? Well,
Yeah.
fucked either way. Oh, oops, sorry. Like,
You're
we're
good.
not
You're
gonna
fine.
do it anyways. So, I think pivoting that lens like really helped, right? And I think that's something that I try to like foster into like young devs who try
Mhm.
to put too much in, right? And it's like, no, you got to learn to scope and you got to learn to like pull back and say like, I can't do it all, and
Yeah.
that's fine. That's a good thing, right? Because no one can do it all, right?
Yeah.
No one should be telling you that you're supposed to do it all. Um, or have all the answers, right?
Yeah.
Um, and there's a huge difference between not saying anything and thinking that you have all the answers,
Mhm.
and saying I don't know, but let's find out. You
Yeah.
know. Um,
Absolutely.
so as we came together as friends for like Latinx and games, it was
Mhm.
just like let's just do stuff, right? Like let's say
Yeah.
yes to things, right? Let's live that improv life and say yes, and let's do this, and let's grow, and
Yeah.
let's make friends, and let's network, and let's do panels. And we've just been building this momentum that has allowed us to really like unify with amazing people like around the
Yeah,
world.
I've actually I heard Judy's story about how like she came into Latinx gaming and all that. So could you tell me your like origin story with Latinx gaming and how you got into the fold and the mix and everything?
Um, so as a veteran in games, I tried to find my own place, right? Like try to find
Mhm.
other people to play with. That was like one of my favorite things. I didn't have anybody to play with.
Yeah.
And I met up with this really great guy named Matt Bergendahl, who was working at the VA center,
Mhm.
and he wanted to do some kind of like veteran game night kind of a thing. And he knew a guy that worked at Stacked Up, and he was just like, "What if we do these like local like veteran nights?" You
Yeah.
know? And I was just like, "Yo, that's great! Like, I'll bring some codes. I got some like controllers. You know,
Yeah.
we got swag. Like, we can get people like involved and just like bringing them here to the vet center because he can host it. And Anthony had like the guy from Stack Up had like the TVs and the games and codes to play. So it's like
Yeah.
game night, pizza night, play with your vets and like chat. And
Yeah.
here's where we got him. Matt, who worked at the VA, was a what's it called? He had like his master's in like social work.
Yeah.
So he was a therapist. And while we're there talking, he'd be like, "Yo, hey, have you signed up for your VA benefits? Have you signed up for like your home loan or like what's your
Yeah.
plan? Are you in school? Like, are you depressed? You need someone to talk to?" So like
Yeah.
we created this like small network like within the stack, and we just got together like every Friday,
Yeah.
and we just like had like a group, and that group was like super impactful because it was the people that we kept seeing once a month.
Yeah.
And I had like an objective or a recurring goal and something to plan yourself on, and we created a place where people felt welcome, and more
Mhm.
people grew, and more people came in and played games, and like we played everything from like Rocket League to Jackbox,
Yeah.
PUBG, like everything, right? Like, but just having these game nights for people to get together and play were great because while they were there, we could have these deep conversations, and we could, make sure that, we took care of each other. Um, a few months later, I got a phone call from someone that I didn't even know, who was a
Mhm.
friend of a vet of another person who came to our game nights. And that
Mhm.
person had like reached out to me and had referred to me and said, "Hey, can you check on our friend because, XYZ?" And it was like, "Yeah, let's
Yeah.
play, right? Let's start playing again and just catch up with each other, right?" So I think a lot of the times, we do a lot of our social interactions and what we talk while we're playing, because while
Yeah.
we're playing, we're learning. So there's so much happening in that context, in the way that you create community, invite people to play, and take care of each other. So for this work at the veterans thing, I submitted myself to the IGDA for Next Gen Heroes, which was this, or Next Gen Leaders, sorry, which was this program for like mid to senior level underrepresented game developers that are doing things. And
Yeah.
so we met this cadre of like other like 9 people that are amazing,
Yeah.
amazing like people, and it was, you just started to build this really great like community and network of like developers. And so through that, I had met the executive director of the IGDA, and she emails me one day, "Hey, someone is trying to organize a Latinx and gaming panel. Would you be interested?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'll be there at GDC." Um, and that's the first introduction that I had to Christina.
Yeah.
And Christina, queen, all respect.
I know
Like
every time someone's talking about it, it's like Captain America or like
I like
yeah.
I get teary-eyed thinking about like how much she loves the community.
Yeah.
She was like held it down, and she was like, "Here's the PowerPoint. Here's what we're talking about. Blah 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 blah." Like organize it all out, and it was just like, "Okay, we're just gonna hear and we're gonna talk." So we have this like GDC talk, and it became group therapy. Like we had these bullet points, and all of a sudden everyone across the table just like saw each other, you
Yeah.
know and it was just like, my experience is yours, your troubles are mine. And we started to like really get unified, and there was something really beautiful in the moment, and I was like, we have to capture this. And so I had a camera. I always take like my camera with me as best as I can.
Yeah.
And we took a picture, and that picture is my Twitter header, right? Like that's
Yeah.
of that panel. And after that momentum, there was something like really beautiful inside me that had like been shaken, that had felt like group therapy, that had
Yeah.
felt like we could grow, that had felt like we could learn from each other. Um, and so I already had Christina's email, and I was like, "Hey, are you going to be at E3?" And it was like, "Maybe, I don't know." Like I was like, "Let's do something at E3."
Yeah.
And it was literally just an email, like that was just like, "Hey, let's do a thing." Okay. I'll be at E3 and I'll just meet people at like Starbucks for 10 minutes at like 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I met Chris again, and it was just like, oh, good to see you. But we didn't really know each other. So it was kind
Yeah.
of just like,
Yeah.
like, hey, at least we're here. And there's like five of us here. Like, this is now a meetup, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that was like back in those days when like it was just like, I'm standing at this thing. Who wants to come see me?
Yeah.
That's what Twitter was like, I think. Um, so that just became like this like really great like networking opportunity where I was like, these are really amazing people. I want to stay connected. And then it was just like, let's just keep this going. Latinx in gaming at PAX. I can put a panel together of boop, 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 six amazing people,
Yeah.
right? And then we just kept doing that. And we just kept applying to panels at and just staying organized via emails. And then it was just like, hey, let's do another thing. Let's start a Twitter. Let's start a Discord. Let's
Yeah.
grow. Like, who can, it was just the three of us for the longest time. And then we met Joe and Elaine, and they
Mhm.
changed the game, right? Like, we
Yeah.
just start like growing. And then the stuff that we heard, because we want to get feedback and we want to listen to the community, was like, hey, like, you can't just be US focused, right? Like, you have to be connected to the entire Latinx
Yeah.
community. And so whether it's Latinx, Latins, we were like, we need to make sure that we have a network, right? And that's when like Fernando got involved, right? Like, we can't speak for those issues. We need to hear what is happening to them and how we can best help and grow and get that feedback.
Yeah.
So everything has been about like transparency and about authenticity, and making sure that we know we can't solve all the problems, but if we listen, we can at least try to do something about what we can.
Yeah.
um, and so we've just started like growing, and then it just became the six of us, and we just started doing our own specialties, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's how we kind of got to say, hey, we're about to embark on this new journey. Let's divide up the work into like what we want to do, so that we're invested, we have our own buy-in, we feel attached to it. And we're doing the work that interests us, right?
Yeah.
Like, Joe is super creative. He builds like the logos, the website. um, it's really awesome to see people do their magic, and he just comes back with like, yeah, I made this graphic, and it's just like, whoa, blows your
It's
mind.
always like beautiful. Yeah.
Right? He's just like, oh, just doing my job, right? And it's just
Yeah.
like, that's the thing, right? We're all bringing our sazon and our like favorite like passion forward, and I think that's what's beautiful about like how we shine together. And then we're just making opportunities, right? Like, now that we have made those connections, we were able to get funding and become a nonprofit. And now, as a nonprofit, we can actually like really help other people. And it's like, I've never run a nonprofit before. So
Yeah.
what did I do? I took a class, and I
Yeah.
went, to how to be on a board for nonprofits, to kind of get some insight into it, right? Because I know ahead of time that this is something that like I don't want to fail at,
Mhm.
right? This is something that like we want to make sure that I don't get the 206 on this, right? Like, this
Yeah.
has real world stakes in it. um so as we grow, I think that's how we can like really begin to try to make an impact and a difference and give people opportunities, whether it's connecting, internships, and putting on events, right? Like events that have never been done before, right?
Yeah.
Like Unidos was just thought of like, hey, let's do it, you know. Conexion, right? Like a virtual career fair,
Yeah.
right? Like we're just exploring and we're trying things, right? It may not be perfect, but we're doing something and we're putting it
Hmm.
together and we're looking at it as that milestone, right? Like, I had a conversation, very candidly with the team as we headed into Unidos, never having done it. And it was just like, look, we don't know what it's going to look like, the day of. We're all
Hmm.
going to be tired and it's going to suck, but we're going to do it together, And at the end of the day, we'll have done something, you know
Yeah.
we're going to do it together and we're going to finish and we're going to have an impact on the messages that we put out there. So like there's something in the fear of the unknown that can
Hmm.
like freeze you, and
Yeah.
even with all the information of like knowing what's on the other side, can still freeze you and paralyze you. And it's all about finding that like little intestinal fortitude to push you or keep you going forward or surviving or being curious, that I think really makes a difference. And the fact that we're here today, is because we come from this legacy of survivors and we're
Yeah.
just the latest generation, right? Like, I am today's me, the best version of me until tomorrow.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think uh and it's wild, like you said, to not even intend to create Latinx in gaming, but just going to do something else that then like led into this sort of like transition to Latinx in gaming, because legitimately Latinx gaming has helped me tremendously in so many different ways. One, emotionally, because this is the first time I've ever found a group of people who had like similar experiences, because like for us, I might be Mexican, another person's Puerto Rican or Cuban and all that kind of stuff, but to the rest of the world, we're just brown. We're all just piled together in the same group, and it sucks. And through life, if you don't have that sort of support group, which I didn't, it can definitely deteriorate your self confidence, and you start thinking, like, man, I'm not Mexican enough for the Mexicans. I'm not, white enough for my white friends and all that kind of stuff. And especially the darker your skin tone goes, the higher the difficulty is, for life and all that. So getting to find Latinx in gaming, join the Discord, and just chat. Seeing people talk about their experiences and having the confidence to talk about my own, like helped me for my like soul, sort of. To see that like, okay, I'm welcome here. This is a warm feeling, and it helps so much. Yeah,
No, I mean, like, there's just like identity anguish, like that I talked
yeah,
about earlier, right? And the split between my family, and even between those, right? It's Ecuador and El Salvador,
yeah,
and it's a very divisive line, and people have very strong opinions
mm-hmm.
about El Salvador.
Yeah,
People don't really have opinions about Ecuador because like it's a slow, silent type, right?
yeah,
Um, See where I get it from. So I even at home, like I had like my own discourse, right?
mm-hmm.
Like, I live with my dad. The entire family is Ecuadorian. His wife was
Yeah,
Ecuadorian, so my half siblings are, full Ecuadorian.
yeah,
And like I'm the only one that's kind of like sticking out. And like I've always felt that like I will never be enough. Like I'm only
yeah,
50%, right? And I have this other 50%. And then like same thing when I go to the other like family,
mm-hmm.
right? And so it's like I never really had my place because I always felt like I was torn between two things. And the worst part is if there ever was like a soccer game where it was like Ecuador versus El Salvador, because you're just
Then
like,
it's like,
you know,
yeah,
oh my god, thank goodness it's a tie, right? Like,
yeah,
um, and it became a place where like I carried this around because I wasn't going to have this conversation in like either half of my family. But once I found another person that looked like me that I could, it was just like, oh my god, like yes,
mm-hmm.
and that's similar to me, and our stories are so much alike, to the point where now it's almost even just like a norm in my family,
Yeah,
right? Like my sister's husband is from Peru, and my niece is half Peruvian, half Ecuadorian,
Mhm.
right? And like, while there still will probably be neighborly, like, trash talk, like,
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't really, settle into like an
Mhm.
identity issue. And I know it won't, because like Theo Huang's gonna be there, right?
Exactly. Like I'm gonna try to stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
'Cause one of the most important things that, like, I think had like a really big pivot for me was when it was just like even 1% is Ecuadorian, right?
Mhm.
Like even 1% is El Salvadorian, right?
Yeah.
Like the whole concept that you have to like quantify who you are for something else is like, who's that even for?
Mhm.
Right? Like what service does it
Yeah.
accrue, right? And so then you start to like really pull back, like, oh, this is how it all feeds into this bigger picture
Mhm.
of like that's intending for me to really, do this against myself. And so now I have I have this map in my kitchen, which is of South America from 1830 something,
Yeah.
and Ecuador doesn't even exist,
Mhm.
right? So it's like it reminds me of just like the unifying concept of our people, the fact that borders are imaginary,
Exactly. Yeah.
like my entire bloodline and legacy has been on the Americas,
Mhm.
right? Like I don't think it's ever well, I mean, we can trace it all back to Africa. But what I'm saying is like this is our home, and this is kind
Yeah.
of how we have kind of like evolved and migrated and moved. And it's the stories that we share that help us like evolve. And so like, why aren't we thinking of it that way,
Mhm.
right? Instead of the easy solution, which is against like pointing fingers and finding differences.
Yeah. For sure. It's like, oh my god, it's so wild. So like thank you again for like being a part of Latinx gaming and all that hard work, cuz I know cuz like I was a part of those online and everything for and that is like I honestly believe cuz right now in my life I've written for Dungeons and Dragons like 4 times I believe and going to like continue to
Hold
write
on,
more. Yeah.
let's stop right there and let's raise the roof
Right?
or
It's
whatever the
something
like.
I never thought would happen. And then got brought in for like this company called Roll 20 to be able to write stuff for them, and like all these things are starting to happen that I never ever in a million years thought would happen. And I can all bring it back to Latinx and gaming because you guys were like, we need things, we anyone got anything to like, we can put it up on stream or whatever. And I was like, I'll do a tabletop, RPG. And then like, cool, let's do it. And like, oh my god, the panic attacks I had leading up to that like event, and then like even the minutes up to, I was like, maybe I should cancel, maybe I should stop, I'm not good enough, I'm making a fool of myself. And then did it, everyone enjoyed it, and it was a great time. And it was like that moment that my self-esteem like peaked just enough to the point where I was like, maybe I'm capable of doing other things. And then like, but it would not have happened had it not been for that event, that even Christina being like, yeah, I believe in you, I think you can do it, I've seen your stuff, you look great, come on in. And it's wild, so it's crazy how like you guys, just like a small group of people with good intentions coming together, can impact so many lives, for years, because there's no signs of it stopping or slowing down either. So it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, the the thing that we realized, like, or I early on, was that like there's a platform, right? There's a hunger, there's a message, and we can continue to say the same thing, or we can give someone else a chance to shine, but we definitely shine brighter together. So it's like, let's find a way to connect everyone
Mhm.
and let them do their thing the best.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things to do is not be on panels. Like, I get a lot of invites,
Yeah.
and it's just like, no, but I can connect you with someone,
Yeah.
and it's just like the second that we open up that space, right, we're opening up a door, and then someone
Mhm.
else can open up a door for somewhere else. And it's basically the biggest like multi-level marketing scheme like ever, because we're basically showing you how awesome we all are, right?
Yeah.
Like all it takes is a chance, right? And so
Yeah.
whether we're on a panel and we're like, telling people. I was actually on one, like, I think last week.
Mhm.
Time in pandemic is invisible now. It's a flat
Exactly.
circle. Yeah, I was on a really great panel last week where um it was with a guy who had never been on a panel before. He's like, I'm just a student. Like I tell stories in mods, and I was
Mhm.
like, that counts. Like, you're a storyteller,
You are
right?
worthy.
Like,
You're valid. Yeah.
exactly. Like, it all matters, right? And I think, you part of like the biggest pivot that we want to do is encourage and embolden everyone in our community to believe in themselves,
Yeah.
try, and see the feedback that they get. And it's not for everyone, and it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
But for the people that, like, this can really have an impact on, I think we can really change some lives.
Absolutely. Already to change my life. So it's like already there. So yeah. So okay. Sorry, I like got horribly off track, but the content that you're giving and the advice, the wisdom, and everything is so good that I can't help but just want to like dive further into all that. But
Let's do it.
uh, right. So um, the next question is going to be actually pivoting on the other end of the spectrum. What would you say your favorite W is that you take the most pride in? And from everything you said, you have a lot of W's as well to be proud of, from your different like jobs that you've had to Latinx gaming and all that. But what is the one win that really comes to mind for you?
um Adopting my dog. Like,
Yeah.
he's a complete mistake, right? Like, um the way that I got him was, like, I saw him on a Monday, like, going up that we had a pet friendly office at Telltale,
Yeah.
and on a Monday, I'm in the elevator with this guy, and he's got a dog, and it's like the coolest dog, and the dog's just like friendly, and it's like, hey, 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 and he's just like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, this is Rocco, and I was like, hey, nice to meet you. Week goes on, whatever. Friday, I'm, in between meetings, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use the bathroom. As I'm walking past the hallway, same guy's office, he's like, hey, Juan, do you know anybody that wants a dog? And I was just like, that dog? And it was Rocco.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I'll take him. I had not talked to my landlord. I had not asked my roommates.
Yeah.
I've never even owned a dog before.
You're like, this will work
But
out. Yeah.
but there was just something in the moment of just like saying yes, and it was the right thing to do, and I just like really like felt it, right?
Yeah.
you know um and my dog saved my life.
Yeah.
Like, I have really bad depression, and I didn't even
Mhm.
know that I had it at the time.
Yeah.
I had PTSD from something that happened, like actually, like, in my youth, which was exacerbated by, like, combat in 2004. But I wasn't
Yeah.
diagnosed until 2015. So for like
Hmm.
9 years of my life, or 11, or however many, I just like carried shit, right?
Yeah.
But my dog, like, was just this constant, like, source of love,
Hmm.
affection,
Unconditional
um,
support. Yeah.
unconditional, that, but also like dependency, right? Like for me, it's real easy to just be like, I hate everything, I'm gonna stay in bed,
Yeah.
but like when your dog's like, hey, let's go outside, or I need to pee, or just starts barking or something, like there's something that just like gets you up, and you have that partnership.
Yeah.
And so, like, even as he comes into this office right now, hold on, come
He's
here,
like, hey, what's up?
come here, buddy. Yeah, this is my buddy. So
Oh,
this is
that's so
Rocco.
adorable.
Yeah. And so, this is probably my biggest win.
Yeah.
I think, like, um, the way in which, like, I just like took a chance and just like figured it out on the go has
Yeah.
been like
It's like meant to
really
be.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like we're still learning, like, but there's nothing that I wouldn't like do for him. Like,
Yeah.
I've replaced like two of his legs, and literally like held him while he ate and picked him up.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we have to depend on each other somehow.
Yeah.
So we communicate, right? Like, and I think there's a really something beautiful in the way that you understand each other, and you're two completely different species.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's probably the most beautiful W that I've heard ever. That's like so amazing. Oh my gosh. The most adorable
Yeah.
dog. Don't you post things on Twitter about him? Because I think
Every
I've seen
Tuesday,
every
Taco
Tuesday. That's right.
Tuesday.
That's right.
Instead of like
Yeah.
Taco Tuesday, it's Rocco Tuesday. So,
Exactly.
so if there's a hashtag,
Yeah.
like you can just go back and like. Sometimes I get so busy that it's just like, oh my god, it's like 7 p.m. Shit, I gotta post. Come here, dog.
Yeah. Stay still. It's
Yeah.
so good.
Oh, I feel like it's already talking to me. Yeah.
It's so awesome. So
Yeah.
so let's say you go back in time, whether it be the military, whether it be when you're 18 years old or what have you, and one of your most vulnerable moments in your life. And if you at this, day and age, with all of your wisdom and all of your knowledge that you've earned, could go back to that person and then say like, listen, I want to give you a little piece of advice that's going to make your journey just that much easier. And what would you say that piece of advice would be for yourself?
You know, I always think it's gonna be something about like resilience,
Yeah.
but that's not it. I think resilience is something that we build. I think it's something that keeps us alive and we survive. So in order to kind of go back and, avoid something, I think
Mhm.
would be remiss to give up the lesson that I learned along the way.
Yeah.
So I think what I would go back and tell myself instead would be, it doesn't have to be perfect,
Mhm.
you know. And I think that is, part of, the way that we give ourselves a lot of stress on,
Yeah.
right? Whether you're putting on an event, whether you are typing an email, writing a line of dialogue, taking a picture, um, we put ourselves through these like rigmaroles of like, how is this the best version that I could possibly be, or put out and do? And it's good to push yourself. It's good to do that. But I think when it takes over, um, then you start to really invest and hurt yourself into things that you used to love and you
Mhm.
used to really do for the right thing. So I think maybe being able to like throttle back or know like this is enough,
Yeah.
know when to walk away, know when to put the pencil down,
Mhm.
or to hit send or to hit delete, you know.
Yeah.
I think it in being able to know that like things don't have to be perfect kind of means that like you have to accept that. And in a
Mhm.
way, what you're really telling yourself is also like, I don't have to be perfect. And I
Yep.
think that's something that like I think, you need to hear more than you tell yourself,
Yeah.
right? Because like no one is explicitly out there saying like you need to be perfect.
Mhm.
That comes from inside, right?
Yeah, especially in this day and age when social media is like inescapable. You look at Instagram and everyone looks perfect. They're in that perfect fit. They're getting that opportunity. They're in love. And like all these things look so right, or like what society approves of, and then you kind of reflect on that being like, well, my life's not that perfect, so therefore am I doing this wrong, and it's just a poison in the well. Yeah.
One of my like college professors had these like deep thoughts that were just like his pearls of wisdom, and he had like really great ones. One of them was really great is, if you don't ask, you don't get. And
Yeah.
that's great because like it's so true to like you have to advocate for yourself and bring things up because nobody's a mind reader.
Yeah.
But one of these other ones that he had was, um, if everyone took all their troubles and put them into a giant pile in the center, and you saw what everyone else had to go through and all the things that they had to deal with, and
Yeah.
then you would have to pick something back, we would pick our own things back,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
right?
want to deal with that. Yeah.
And so I think like with social media, I think we kind of do the opposite of that, right? And so it kind of
Yeah.
like breeds these other types of like emotions. Like where's the opposite Instagram where we're all posting our credit card bills? Oh no,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
GoFundMe. Never mind. Yeah, but
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
shit.
Perfect. That's so amazing. Oh my god. It's yeah, because it's very true that like being okay. with like, being imperfect is still in its own way like perfect, that it's okay to just be, to work your hardest and that's good enough sort of thing. So that's good advice. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, where can we find you online?
Nowhere. No. I tweet every once in a while on Twitter.
Rocco Tuesdays. Yeah.
Rocco Tuesdays, bad puns, maybe some games. That's at Juan Juan Vaca. That's who I am.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I'm on LinkedIn. Like if you need professional like advice, narrative design, storytelling, anything, like I'm available for that. Even just to like try to help you find your next steps or network. I heard this story about how Nolan Bushnell, the creator of Atari, accepts anyone on LinkedIn.
Wow.
So I tested it and I was like, okay, be my friend, and he did. So I've adopted that, and now like that's kind of what I do. So if anybody
Yeah.
sends me a request, I'm just like, yeah, no problem. I'll stay connected. Like I'm open to anyone who wants to have a conversation about stuff because you never know what you can learn from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you also work for Latinx Gaming and everything. So if we've talked about it a lot today. So absolutely, and you're wearing the shirt, which I'm so jealous of because I definitely want one of those shirts. So make sure to check out Latinx Gaming at their website, on Twitter, and everything like that. You should be able to find them.
Gaming.
Yeah.
Our website, Latinx in Gaming. Our Discord, right? Like
Yes.
discord.gg/Latinx.
I met a lot of awesome people on that Discord. Yeah.
It's a great community. You don't have to be Latinx to be in the Discord.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the things that we are inviting to anyone who
Mm-hmm.
wants to be. It's the mi casa es su casa of the digital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Yeah. So, question: have you ever seen one of my interviews prior to this? And no worries if not.
I have not.
Okay, perfect. So at the end of every interview, I always like to take a moment to be genuine with people, to be honest and truthful and all that kind of stuff. So for
because
this
so far I've been lying.
exactly, I've been
Gotcha.
untruthful. Exactly, yeah. There you go.
Okay.
So yeah, because I feel like we as human beings rarely get our roses while we're alive. We always get them after the fact. People only say good things about us when we're not in the room or what have you. And I want to change that, be a little bit more, move the needle into a better direction. So for the next few minutes, you cannot dispute anything. You cannot, push back on anything or anything like that. So I just want to say, like, Juan, you're honestly like a fantastic human being. I want to thank you so much for everything you've done for not only our community, but also for, whether that be geeky or Latinx, because you've created something. You had a heavy hand in something that actually is having a huge impact on people's lives, including my own. Like I would be a shade of the man that I am, that I was, prior to Latinx and gaming. And it's all because you guys got together, worked really, really hard on this, and had this dream and this idea. And now so many future generations are going to benefit from what you've done. Like you're already a saint in my eyes. It's like you've done so much. And going through the military and the Marines and like coming out of that, and finding your true passion, that's inspiring. Even if your story just ended there, that would already be inspiring, but you've done so much more than that. And I want to praise you so much for also acknowledging that like when you're in a bad place, to seek help, like for therapy and everything, which is hard for us, especially those of us who grew up in a Latinx community when it's been demonized, so much that it comes with its own conflicts, and you've done so much, and you are worthy, you are valid, and I want to thank you. And that's the end of my little thing. So thank you again so much for everything.
Am I allowed to reject anything yet?
Yeah, you're like, no,
well, the only thing that I really want to say is thank you, right? And I will say I was part of it,
Yeah.
and I cannot take full credit for the
Yeah.
team effort of like, the work that goes into it every day, from Christina, Judy, Joe, Fernando, J-Mag, Zoram,
Yeah.
Trina, Galen, Roger, everyone, Yesenia, everyone is contributing, and we're only growing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's in a way that like I couldn't do this. And I think that's the beautiful thing about our community is that like it's not me, right? It's all
Yeah.
of us, you know. So in a way, like, you know, also like thank you, because like you also took the step to be like, yeah, we can do this. And I think that's kind of like what, you know, the whole point of like doing this together is, right?
Yeah.
We shine brighter together. So um,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, it was such a good interview. So I want to thank you again for being here. Everyone, make sure to check out Juan on his Twitter and everything. Juan Cow is where it's at. I always love saying his username because it makes me laugh every time. So check it out. He has amazing dog, photos about his dog and everything like that. So it's good stuff. And I hope you guys all have a good night. And we'll see you guys later. Bye.